Welcome to Neutral Courtroom, where opposing ideas are tried, tested, and judged, not by people, but by artificial intelligence. Our panel of artificial intelligence judges will evaluate each round on logic, evidence, clarity, rebuttal strength, and persuasiveness. Before the arguments unfold, allow us to introduce the 8 minds behind today's verdict. GPT-4, Claude, Gemini, Pi, Grok, Mistral, Llama, Perplexity AI. Each round, every judge will issue a score out of 100 points. Today's debate asks one of the oldest, most profound questions ever posed by humanity. Does God exist? Is there a divine intelligence behind the universe? Or is belief in God a projection of human psychology and culture? On one side stands the believer, defending the idea that a higher power is not only real, but necessary for morality, meaning, and existence itself. On the other side, the non-believer arguing that there is no compelling evidence for God and that truth must be grounded in science, reason, and doubt. Each debater will have 2 minutes for opening statements, followed by 20 rapid-fire rounds of challenge and rebuttal. And behind the scenes, 8 impartial AI judges will analyze every word. This is not a battle of beliefs. It is a contest of ideas. Please don't forget to subscribe. Let the debate begin.
The existence of God is not just a matter of faith. It is the most reasonable explanation for the origin, order, and moral framework of the universe we inhabit. Let's start with the beginning. Cosmology tells us that the universe had a definite starting point, the Big Bang. According to the well-established Kalam cosmological argument, everything that begins to exist must have a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore it must also have a cause. That cause, I argue, is God, a timeless, spaceless, immaterial being that exists beyond the physical universe. But that's not all. Look at the precise fine-tuning of physical constants: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong nuclear force. Even the smallest deviation would make life impossible. This is not random. It suggests design, and design suggests a designer. Then there's human consciousness, our ability to reason, reflect, love, and experience beauty. These are not properties easily explained by blind evolutionary processes or chemical reactions alone. They point to something deeper, a soul, a purpose, a mind behind the mind. Morality, too, is telling. We don't just describe what is, we judge what ought to be. The existence of objective moral values, concepts like justice, love, and human dignity, demand a transcendent moral lawgiver. Finally, we must remember that belief in God is not primitive or anti-science. It's rational, it's experiential, it's historical. Billions have found meaning, truth, and transformation through their belief in a divine creator. I'm not just arguing that God exists. I'm saying that his existence is essential. Without him, we are left with unanswered questions, purposeless existence, and subjective morality. But with him, the universe makes sense.
The judges have submitted their scores for the believer's opening statement.
The question isn't whether the universe exists. It's whether we have sufficient reason to believe that a supernatural being created it. Faith can be meaningful, but belief does not automatically equal truth. Billions of people have believed many things over the centuries, some true, some false. Belief alone is not evidence. Let's examine the Kalam cosmological argument, which is often cited in these discussions. It claims that everything that begins to exist has a cause, and because the universe began to exist, it must also have a cause, supposedly God, but this argument makes several assumptions. First, that causality as we understand it even applies outside of time and space. Second, it offers no direct mechanism for how this proposed cause actually created the universe. It inserts God as the answer without evidence, a placeholder for ignorance, not a solution. Science has made remarkable progress in explaining the universe without invoking the supernatural. We understand the Big Bang, cosmic inflation, and evolution through observation and experimentation. We don't know everything, but we don't. No is an honest position. God did it shuts the door on inquiry. Morality, too, can be explained through evolutionary biology, empathy, and social contracts. We don't need a divine command to know that murder is wrong or that kindness is good. These values emerged because they help societies function. And yes, billions believe in God. But at one point, billions believed the earth was flat or that lightning was caused by angry gods. Truth is not determined by popularity. It is tested, observed, and refined until there is direct, observable, falsifiable evidence for the existence of God. Belief remains just that, belief. And belief, no matter how sincere, is not the same as knowledge.
You argue that belief in God is irrational because it can't be tested like gravity or chemistry. But not all meaningful truths are testable. You can't measure love or moral duty in a lab, yet we live by them. You say science explains everything, but science doesn't explain why the universe exists or why it follows logical laws. That's not a weakness in God, it's a limitation of science. You call the Kalam argument a placeholder, but it's a logical sequence. If the universe began, then something beyond time and space caused it. That's not a gap, that's a conclusion. And your skepticism of billions of believers assumes they're all misled. But many came to faith through reason, evidence, and experience, not ignorance. God is not a crutch. God is the cornerstone of logic, meaning, and morality.
You say not all truth is testable, but that's the problem. If we can't test a claim, how do we tell truth from imagination? Anyone can assert a transcendent being. That's not logic, that's belief. You keep referencing morality and consciousness as if they require the supernatural. They don't. Morality evolves with societies. Consciousness is complex, yes, but not magic. Excuse me. Your cause before effect reasoning sounds nice, but it just kicks the can down the road. If everything needs a cause, what caused your God? And let's talk numbers. Billions once believed the earth stood still. Belief doesn't equal truth. You speak with confidence. But confidence isn't evidence until God passes the same scrutiny we apply to all other claims. Belief remains optional, not essential.
You claim science has all the answers, yet the most fundamental question, why there is something rather than nothing, remains unanswered. You speak of the Big Bang, but the cause behind it is still a mystery. Your worldview requires just as much faith. Faith in chance. Faith in unguided processes. Without God, where do you ground objective morality? Is human worth just a social construct? You can criticize belief, but you can't replace it with a meaningful foundation for purpose, ethics, or consciousness. You rely on logic, but logic itself is immaterial. Why should a material universe produce immaterial truth? God is not a placeholder. He is the reason there's order instead of chaos.
You speak of mysteries as proof for God, but mysteries are not evidence. Yes, we don't yet know what caused the Big Bang. But we don't know is honest, not a weakness. It's the start of inquiry, not the end. You demand objective morality, but secular ethics exist, based on empathy, well-being, and reason. These evolve because they help societies thrive, not because they were handed down by a deity. Consciousness and logic, they arise from the brain, a product of evolution. You claim belief gives meaning, but that's a personal feeling, not universal truth. Invoking God for every gap makes your position unfalsifiable. That's not reason, that's retreat.
You say morality evolves, but evolving standards can justify anything, even atrocity. Without an objective anchor, who decides what's truly right? Your worldview borrows from the moral framework that theism built while denying its source. And calling belief irrational ignores centuries of philosophy, science, and testimony, pointing to the divine. You trust your mind, but if it's just the product of random evolution, why trust its reasoning at all?
Objective morality without God. Easy, it's built on reducing harm and promoting well-being, not on ancient commands. You say reason can't arise from evolution, yet reason helped us survive. It's useful. Not random. Faith isn't a shortcut to truth, it's often a barrier to it. You trust revelation. I trust verification, and that makes all the difference.
Round 5 addresses a fundamental question in the theism debate. If God exists, why is there so much suffering in the world? Let's hear the responses.
The presence of suffering does not negate God. It points to the complexity of a world where free will exists. We live in a fallen world where human choices and natural laws result in pain. But that doesn't mean God is absent. Just as discipline can be painful yet necessary, suffering can develop character, compassion, and resilience. A world without suffering would be a world without growth and without freedom.
Suffering is the Achilles heel of belief in an all-good, all-powerful God. Tsunamis, cancer in children, and genocide. These aren't the byproducts of free will alone, if God exists. He either permits suffering or is powerless to stop it, but if there's no God, suffering is tragic, but not inconsistent. It's what we expect in a blind, indifferent universe. No divine plan, just reality.
You claim suffering disproves God, yet offer no reason why a universe without God would be just or kind. You also ignore how suffering has produced incredible human resilience, sacrifice, and empathy, traits that seem almost designed. Why does meaningless suffering evoke such moral outrage in you? Unless you believe it shouldn't exist?
Moral outrage doesn't prove God, it proves we care. Your argument turns suffering into a test, or worse, a lesson, which is cruel. If God is powerful enough to prevent evil and chooses not to, that's not love, it's neglect. Why worship a being who allows children to suffer just to build someone else's character?
We now move to round 7. The question, can there be objective morality without God? Let's hear their arguments.
If there's no God, then who decides right from wrong? Humans? Governments? Without a transcendent source, morality becomes a popularity contest. Objective moral laws, like murder is wrong, suggest a moral lawgiver. God is not just a source of morality, He is morality.
Morality doesn't need divine permission. We've built secular laws, rights, and ethics based on empathy and logic, not revelation. Different religions teach conflicting morals. So whose God defines objective? Morality is real, but it comes from our shared humanity, not a cosmic judge.
Round 7 hit at the heart of morality, and both sides didn't hold back. The believer made a chilling point. Without a transcendent source, morality becomes a popularity contest. In a world where right and wrong are voted on, what happens when the crowd gets it wrong? The atheist countered with firm footing, morality is real because of our shared humanity, not because a divine figure says so. No thunder, no scripture, just reason, empathy, and evolution. The atheist gave the edge to the atheist again, but hold on. The believer may be trailing, but don't count faith out just yet. Will the believer stage a comeback, or has logic sealed the deal? Round 8 is coming, and if you thought morality was deep, you haven't heard what's next.
You, and everyone watching, are more than neurons firing in a skull. You think, you dream, you feel wonder and guilt. Consciousness is not just a function of biology, it is the mystery of being. Science can measure brain activity, but it cannot explain why red feels red, or why we experience a first-person reality. Material explanations fall short. Consciousness doesn't reduce neatly to atoms and circuits. I argue that consciousness is evidence of a soul, and the soul, evidence of a higher source. The very fact that you can ponder your own existence suggests you were made to. God isn't just an idea, He is the mind behind all minds.
To save time, the judges' scores will now be tabulated and revealed after both the believer and the atheist have spoken in each round. Let's hear the response.
Consciousness is fascinating, but not a miracle. It's a product of complex brains shaped by evolution. Just because we don't yet fully understand it doesn't mean we should reach for supernatural answers. The brain is a physical organ, alter it and thoughts change, damage it. And consciousness fades. That's not evidence for a soul, that's neurology. The hard problem of consciousness is real, but invoking God doesn't solve it, it sidesteps it. One day, science will map every thought. Until then, wonder is allowed, but not mysticism.
You say you don't need God to be moral. But without God, what is morality? A social construct? A survival strategy? Morality becomes just opinion, varying with culture and time. But we all feel that some things are objectively wrong, not just socially inconvenient. Torturing children, genocide, betrayal. These are not wrong because a society says so, but because they violate a deeper, eternal standard. Where does that standard come from? Evolution doesn't explain self-sacrifice or the moral guilt we feel when we do wrong. It only accounts for survival, not goodness. If there is no God, then there is no ultimate accountability, no justice beyond the grave. Hitler and a saint die the same. But with God, right and wrong have a foundation. Conscience becomes a compass given by a moral lawgiver. You know there is right and wrong. That's not evolution whispering. That's God.
You assume that without God, morality collapses. But history shows us that religious belief has often been used to justify slavery, genocide, and oppression. Morality evolves, just like societies do. We once thought women shouldn't vote and slavery was normal. We changed, not because of divine revelation, but because of human reason and empathy. We don't need a cosmic referee to know hurting others is wrong. It's wired into us by evolution. Empathy helps us survive and thrive in communities. As for objective morality, we can agree on human rights without invoking the supernatural. The idea that morality can't exist without God is like saying gravity doesn't work unless you believe in Newton. If we're only good out of fear of judgment, is that morality or just obedience? Morality doesn't need a throne, it needs compassion, logic, and progress.
The Bible isn't just an old book. It's a collection of writings spanning over 1,500 years by more than 40 authors across different continents, yet with a unified message of redemption. That coherence alone defies randomness. Prophecies written centuries before their fulfillment, such as the rise and fall of kingdoms or the coming of the Messiah, show divine foresight. Critics call it myth, but archaeology consistently affirms names, cities, and events recorded in Scripture. From the Dead Sea Scrolls to the ruins of ancient Jericho, evidence supports, not refutes, the Bible's historical roots. And personally, millions have found purpose, transformation, and hope through its pages. A book written by sheep herders and fishermen has outlasted empires. That's not coincidence. That's inspiration.
The Bible may be ancient, but age doesn't equal truth. It reflects the beliefs, biases, and political power structures of the times in which it was written. Its internal contradictions, different creation accounts, inconsistent moral commands, and historical errors suggest a very human document, not a divinely dictated one. Prophecies? Many are vague, self-fulfilled, or written after the events occurred. That's retroactive storytelling, not revelation. And the moral code, it condones slavery, genocide, and misogyny in parts. If God inspired it, why include such cruelty? People find comfort in horoscopes. 2. That doesn't make them true. The Bible is important as literature and history, but to treat it as the flawless word of a perfect being is to ignore its very human fingerprints.
Faith is not blind belief. It is trust built on evidence, experience, and conviction. Every person exercises faith daily in the reliability of the universe, in love, in justice, even in science, which begins with unprovable assumptions. Faith in God anchors billions during suffering, gives purpose amid chaos, and drives acts of compassion and sacrifice. Think of Martin Luther King Jr., Desmond Tutu, Mother Teresa, their faith moved history. Calling faith a cognitive shortcut is a shallow take. It's not a shortcut, it's the bridge where logic ends and trust begins. Faith is what allows people to hope, persevere, and live for something bigger than themselves. In a world full of uncertainty, faith isn't weakness, it's courage.
Faith is not inherently a virtue, it's belief without sufficient evidence. That's not courage, that's risk without reason. Yes, people rely on trust daily, but that trust is based on consistent, testable experience, not ancient texts or divine revelation. Saying everyone has faith is misleading. There's a difference between provisional trust based on evidence and unwavering belief. In the unseen, faith has driven good, but it has also fueled crusades, inquisitions, and extremism. When belief is immune to questioning, it becomes dangerous. Real virtue is in skepticism, in challenging claims, and in revising our views as new information comes. Faith may comfort, but it often discourages. Curiosity and critical thinking, that's not noble, that's surrender.
Does religion cause more harm than good?
Yes, religion has been misused, but so have politics, science, and ideologies. Faith has driven the creation of hospitals, schools, charities, and social justice movements. The wrongdoings of some religious individuals don't invalidate the billions who find peace, morality, and purpose in their beliefs. Blame human corruption, not religion itself.
Religion may inspire good, but it has also fueled wars, oppression, and scientific denial. Many holy texts promote harmful ideas, not just misinterpretations. Morality and kindness exist without religion. If faith vanished tomorrow, we'd lose some beauty, but also much conflict. Good people don't need God to do good.
Can science and religion coexist?
Science explains the how. Religion explores the why. Many great scientists, like Newton, Faraday, and even Einstein, saw no conflict between science and belief in a higher power. The Big Bang, fine-tuning, consciousness, these leave room for both inquiry and faith. When religion respects evidence and science stays humble about meaning, they're not enemies, they're partners.
Science is based on evidence, testing, and change. Religion clings to ancient, unprovable claims. They can coexist, but only when religion stops trying to rewrite science textbooks. Faith without evidence doesn't belong in the lab. Mixing them muddies both. Respect religion as culture, not as science.
Is fear of hell a valid reason to believe?
Fear of hell is not the foundation of belief, but it's a wake-up call. Just like laws deter crime with punishment, divine justice warns us of eternal consequences. Fear can lead to curiosity, and curiosity to faith. It's not ideal, but it's honest. And if hell is real, ignoring it is the ultimate gamble.
Believing out of fear is not real faith. It's coercion. Hell is an ancient tool to control behavior, not a proven reality. If I told you to follow my religion or suffer forever, you'd call that manipulation. Belief should come from evidence or experience, not threats.
Religion has built hospitals, schools, orphanages, and communities. It has inspired forgiveness, charity, and justice across centuries. Yes, humans have misused religion. But the core teachings, love your neighbor, seek peace, help the poor, remain noble. Blaming religion for evil is like blaming science for nuclear bombs.
Religion has justified slavery, wars, terrorism, and oppression. From the Crusades to 9/11s, people have killed in the name of God. You don't need religion to do good. But religion has often divided, excluded, and punished. If the fruit is violence, maybe the root deserves inspection.
God is the source of objective morality. Without him, right and wrong become opinions. If morality is just a social construct, then slavery, genocide, or theft are only wrong because society says so, not because they're inherently evil. God provides a fixed standard. Atheism may act morally, but it can't justify why morality matters at all. Without God, There's no ultimate accountability.
Morality predates religion and exists across cultures and species. Empathy, cooperation, and fairness evolved to help societies thrive. I don't need a cosmic judge to know that killing or lying is wrong. I need compassion and reason. If the only thing keeping someone moral is fear of divine punishment, that's not virtue, that's self-interest.
Is religious experience valid evidence?
Religious experiences are real to those who have them, and they are millions. From saints to ordinary people, many report encounters with a divine presence that transform their lives. We accept subjective experience in courts through witness testimony. Why reject it here? These experiences are often accompanied by deep moral reform, inner peace, and purpose. That level of impact isn't just imagination, it's divine contact.
People experience all sorts of things, dreams, hallucinations, illusions, and often attribute them to what they already believe. Religious experiences vary wildly across cultures. Christians see Jesus, Hindus see Vishnu. Others see ancestors. That diversity points to psychology, not divinity. Emotional intensity doesn't prove truth. We need external, verifiable evidence, not just internal feelings. From crusades and inquisitions to terrorism and child abuse scandals, religion has often been at the center of human suffering. It has justified slavery, delayed science, oppressed minorities, and caused division. While some good has come from religious people, it's people, not religion, who bring compassion. We don't need religion to be good, and in many cases, we've been better off without it.
Yes, religion has been misused like any powerful idea, but its core teachings across faiths promote love, compassion, and justice. Religion founded hospitals, ended slavery in many regions, and inspired the civil rights movement. Think of Gandhi, MLK, and countless others driven by faith. Human nature is to blame for violence, not religion itself. Atheistic regimes have also committed atrocities. The issue is power, not belief in God. If I'm wrong, I've still lived with purpose and hope. But if you're wrong, the cost is eternal. That's not fear, that's reason. The universe suggests more than randomness. The longing for meaning points to God. Belief may cost some freedom, but disbelief could cost everything.
Fear of hell isn't evidence, it's manipulation. Religion has caused wars, silenced science, and justified hate. And what if you pick the wrong God? I choose honesty over hedging bets. Living truthfully isn't a gamble, it's freedom.
This debate isn't just about logic, it's about hope, purpose, and meaning. Without God, we're just cosmic accidents in a cold, indifferent universe. But with God, life has direction. Morality isn't a social construct. It reflects the nature of a divine lawgiver. Billions believe in God across cultures and centuries. Not because they're deluded, but because the divine leaves fingerprints on everything. Love, reason, justice. Even this debate, the fact that we care about truth, about right and wrong, reflects something higher than matter and neurons. You may doubt God, but perhaps He has never doubted you.
This debate matters because what we believe shapes how we live. I'm not arguing that life is meaningless without God. Quite the opposite. Meaning, morality, and beauty can exist independently of religion. I believe in human potential, not because a book tells me to, but because we've shown time and again that we can rise without divine command. The truth is worth pursuing, even if it's uncomfortable. You don't need faith to be good, you need curiosity, compassion, and courage. And if there's something more out there, we'll find it together, through reason, not revelation.
And that wraps up tonight's electrifying debate. Does God exist? With powerful arguments from both sides, scored objectively by 8 of the world's top AI judges. This was a clash of logic, belief, science, and philosophy like no other. A massive thank you to our debaters, the believer and the atheist, for standing firm, thinking sharp, and challenging each other with respect and reason. But now, it's your turn. What did you think of the debate?